Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and wherever you may be joining us from, whether you are here in person or whether you will watch our video on our YouTube channel. The date is 21st of May, 2026. We are racing towards the middle of the year already. We'd like to welcome you to our Consciencism study group, where we read and share our thoughts on what some might call radical philosophy or radical Pan-Africanism. So welcome. It's a safe space. We read first, we all listen to the reading, and then we share our thinking. No one is under obligation to share their thinking. They may pass on or come back later to share their thoughts. We don't encourage opinions and feelings. We encourage thinking. But of course, you can share your thoughts. You can share your feelings and your opinions. That's fine. But we encourage you to share more your thinking. How you think about a particular topic. Right. Thank you very much. My laptop may show strange colors. That is because it appears to be suffering from some kind of instability. So I'll try and stabilize it as we go on, but you may experience a color change. It's just so you know. Thank you. So Sister Portia has agreed to read for us. Let me welcome those of us here. Also welcome Sister Tapuwa, welcome Sister Portia, welcome Brother Pigbin, and then welcome to myself. So Sister Portia will read for us, after which we shall share our thinking. Sister Portia, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you. When it is inquired what the philosophers mean by the inertness of matter, something different transpires. In reality, the philosophers seek an intellectual parallel to physical motion and deny this of matter. Hence, we find them harping incontinently on the stupidity of matter. They mean by this that matter is incapable of intellectual action, neither thinking, perceiving, nor feeling. Of course, they are grateful for Newton's denial of the physical activity of matter. They take this up and increase it with a further denial of the intellectual activity of matter. Hence, when a philosopher says that matter is stupid, he does not mean that it is slow-witted, but that it has no wit at all. In this denial of activity, both physical and mental, of matter, it is, however, not unusual for philosophers to contradict themselves. If one looks through Locke's magnum opus, the essay on human understanding, one quickly comes upon such contradictions. There, Locke denies that matter is active, attributing all activity to spirit. Nevertheless, in his theory of perception, he says that, Professor Kwame, please pronounce this word. I will spell it Corpuscles. Corpuscles travel from a perceived object to our appropriate organ of sense in order that we should be able to perceive it. These corpuscles are said by him to be part of the perceived object, which detach themselves and subject us to a kind of radiative bombardment. Here, Locke patently contradicts himself, for this activity of matter is not said by him to be induced, but original, natural.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, I thought I was unmuted, Sister Portia, when you asked for the word corpuscles. I just noticed I was muted. Sorry about that. So I would like to welcome Sister Ida, Sister Grace, Brother Welcome, Brother Ifo, who have since joined us. So we have heard the reading. We shall begin to share our thinking. If you did arrive after the reading or during the reading, please read what is on the screen. It's a continuation of what we had been reading before in chapter 4, you recall, which starts with the relationship between practice and thought. So practice and thought. So yeah. So let's see what you think, or let's hear what you think. Let's start with Brother Pigeon, please, as he was here from the beginning, as was Sister Tapuwa as well. Brother Pigeon, share your thinking, please. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly, brother.
Thank you, and greetings to other comrades who have joined us. Brother Kwame, will you be doing us some favor to define some few words first?
Yes, let's do that. Which words should we define?
I don't know, that's Mogas or something. There's a name.
Which one?
Let me check it.
You can spell it if that's okay. Which one?
Mangam opus.
Yeah, magnus opus is a word used in scholarship. It basically refers to, literally, it means, magnus means big, opus means work. So it's from Latin. So magnus opus is the biggest work or the big work of someone. So, for example, Brother Pigeon may have written books, and then Brother Pigeon will write one book that basically is a summary or a set out of his big idea. So that book is called magnus opus, or your biggest work, or your big work. That's what it means. So it means that this book called Essay on Human Understanding is basically Locke's biggest contribution to the discussion. So that to the discussion of philosophy, if you like. That is what it means. Thank you. What's another? Corpuscles. Corpuscles basically from the word corpus, like a corpse. Yeah, corpse. So basically, it means they are tiny particles. Yeah, they are tiny particles or small things. Yeah, so in this case, it means that the light, when light strikes an object, the particles of light, the atoms of light, if you like, travel from the object into your eyes, and then through your retina, they go into your brain where you can see things. So seeing is by the brain through the retina of your eyes. But what goes to your eyes are these tiny objects traveling from the object. Does that make sense? So that's corpuscles. Any other word? Another word. Okay. I think innate we looked at last time, which is lack of ability to interact or to combine with other chemicals is innate, which can be understood as the lack of motion. Okay. So I think, I think the last word maybe will be radiation or radiative bombardment, which basically means that the thing is able to send out particles from itself, meaning that it doesn't need an outside force to make it send small particles, say of light, towards whatever is looking at it or not looking at it. That power is radioactivity. So it comes from radioactivity, which is a capacity for a chemical object, if you like, to send out signals or energy out of itself. An example is uranium, which is used to produce atomic bombs. Yeah. And that is why it's used to produce that, because it can set itself off. Right. Any other word anyone would like us to look into? Or have we looked at everything? I mean, of course, some of the words here have very deep meaning, like perceive. What is to perceive? When you are perceiving something, is it the thing that is letting you perceive it, or is it you that is doing the perceiving? Or which is it? Yeah. If something is not being perceived, doesn't mean it doesn't exist because it is not being perceived. Is it perception that makes something real, or it is real whether it is perceived or not? These are philosophical questions, for us. Yeah. If something is being perceived, does it behave differently than if it is not being perceived? Philosophical question, but if you look at it, if you think of it in terms of accountability, will a president behave better if he or she knows that he or she is being watched? Yeah. Or will she not behave in a certain way if he or she knows that she can get away because she's not being watched? So this linked up with transparency, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Pigeon, are you happy to any other word, or do you want to now proceed?
Let me proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. It is interesting, and thanks and welcome, comrades of Venus. I think Brother Kwame has mentioned them, but I think Brother Kokos has joined, and other comrades, Brother Phiri. We have been discussing Newton. Now we are discussing Locke. And Locke is coming in for the second time or third time. I remember we discussed Locke when we were talking about the liberty thing. It was liberty thing that was almost associated with idealism, individualism. And I'm trying to see the link of Locke's standpoint and this argument that matter is inactive. Is it idealist? Because over a period of time, that conception that matter is not able to make any progress is now being associated closely to Locke, who is also associated before with idealism, agreed, with individualism, agreed. But that's aside. So let me share what I think in regards to this paragraph. It's a bit technical as well. So I'll share my thinking in the technical element of the paragraph, then I'll try to put it in the context of our continent a bit. It started a philosophical debate. So this is a debate for philosophers. And I think we can engage ourselves to be also in that debate of philosophers. And whether the matter is inert or even stupid. The use of the word stupid in quotation is very interesting here. And what does it mean for something being stupid? I think that will be very interesting for us to discuss. But we had said before, of course, that inertness means not able to make movement or moving on its own, not being able to cause any change. And Nkrumah is saying that philosophers are not just claiming that matter does not make physical. Instead, actually, they are trying to connect matter to physical motion. Then they're denying that matter can do anything like that on the inside, as well as especially anything mental. Like basically, they're saying they're treating matter as if it is the opposite of mind. And that's very interesting. And they say again that matter is stupid. And the question is why the word stupid being used.
Brother Pigbin, you are a bit muffled on my side.
Okay. Is that the same? Am I muffled from both sides so that either I can get off earphones so that I go on mic direct? Okay. Now, hope I'll be better, but welcome. Nkrumah says that there are philosophers that use the word stupid, but they don't mean that the matter is like slow in their description of stupidity. And that's why it's very important for us to get the meaning of this word stupid in this context. They mean that something stronger, that matter has no ability for mental life, such as either the matter is not able to think, it's not able to perceive, or matter is not able to feel. So then what do they mean when they say that matter is stupid then? Which basically they mean that matter cannot think or experience anything. And then this is how then you look at the Newton thinking before you see, because Newton actually said very well that Newton will actually conform to.
Pigbin, are you still speaking, or is it your connection that is the problem? We can't. There seem to be gaps in your speaking. Are you still speaking, Pigbin?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Now, sorry for that. Now, what I was trying to concentrate on is this element of matter being stupid from Newton's thinking. And you see, it basically just confirmed the old argument we've been having that matter is not able to make any move internally. So then these philosophers took that idea further to say that if matter cannot move itself physically, they also argued that matter cannot act mentally either. So this is also element of both physical inability and mental inability. Whether do they relate? But then Nkrumah says that the philosophers often contradict themselves in that element. So does it mean that if matter is not able to move physically, does it also mean that mentally it can also not make it move? So Nkrumah brings that contradiction. I think that's what's talking here. And he says that philosophers don't always stay consistent. Even if they deny one kind of activity for matter, they sometimes describe matter as acting in another way. Now, you see, that's why now Nkrumah is bringing this person, John Locke, here, if you look at it. And he's actually quoting this essay. I'll be interested to share this essay in our chat as we continue with this conversation. Probably we can download it, or those who have gone through this essay may be able to help us further. But in this essay is where it's entitled The Essay Concerning Human Understanding. Now, Locke brings the contradiction. And Nkrumah says that Locke denies that matter is active and says instead that activity belongs to spirit, the mental element, non-material things. And that's why I was bringing the element of idealism in Locke's a bit, because it appears idealistic in that format. But Locke, in his explanation as well of perception, now, Locke, of course, perception is how we see or sense. Now, Locke described tiny parts of matter called that's what Brother Kwame was defining to corpuscles, moving from an object to your own senses. Now, according to this description, the corpuscles then detach from the object you're looking at, travel to your eyes, as Brother Kwame was describing, and somehow bombard or influence your senses so you can perceive the object. But Nkrumah argued that that description gives matter a kind of activity then. It moves and does something to help perception happen. So Nkrumah points is that Locke says matter is not active, yet Locke explained perception using moving bits of matter. Therefore, Locke is actually in this case contradicting himself. Now, if you look at towards the end that says that for this activity of matter is not said by him to be induced, but original and natural. Now, that is Nkrumah going back to the element of natural. Remember, in the I don't know it was chapter 1 where Nkrumah say our universe is a natural universe with basic law being basically matter. So Nkrumah then takes us back to that. So just in a nutshell, I'll try to say that I'm trying to see the argument of stupidity to mean it cannot think or matter cannot think, but also there's claim by philosophers like what you see in Locke that is claim matter as moving and acting in a way that do not match their early denial. So basically, that's what I'm saying. But now let me put it in the context. If we take these two thinking of Locke and Newton, and you already now Nkrumah is using this analysis to start pointing at weaknesses in their thinking or in their submission. If you put it to the continent or to us as a people, then it's very clear. Does this then other people perceive the continent or us as a people, whether the Black community or whatever we want to call ourselves, as a global Black community or Africans? Does it mean that to them they perceive us that we are not capable of making change as a people, and we are also not capable of thinking? Does this actually was part of their thinking and doctrine when they came to exploit us in the name of discovery, when they treated us as a people as not able to think enough, or not human enough, or not being intellectual enough that they want. So those are the few things that also comes to my mind when I try to take this thinking into the context of what goes on presently. So thank you very much. Back to you, Chair. Sorry for speaking that much.
No, it's okay. You share your thinking as long as you need to share your thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's go to someone else. I think we go to Sister Tapuwa. But maybe I should remind us all that what someone believes about you may not be necessarily what they tell you. Yeah, what they tell you about you. Yeah, so Henry Favout, the creator of apartheid, is reputed to have said that the Black man is like an elephant. Yeah, so then we need to control him, otherwise he will walk all over us. This is what Henrik is alleged to have said. And yet, when you listen to the actual, some of the actual messaging, you get the impression that they think you are inferior. So I'm saying that what they tell you, what somebody tells you, may not necessarily be what they are thinking about you. That's the point I'm trying to make. Thank you. Let's hear Sister Tapuwa's thinking, please. Sister Tapuwa?
Yes.
Shall we hear your thinking? I believe your phone is working now. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm going to ask to pass for now.
Yeah,
because
no
I'm
problem.
still trying to consolidate my thinking.
Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Later. I'll come to Sister Portia later as she did the reading. So I'll come to Sister Portia later. Sister Grace. We've missed you, Sister Grace, for a while now, yeah?
I think she's put a message on the chat to say she can't speak at the moment.
Has she? I wish she could speak because we haven't heard her for a long time. Okay, thank you for letting me know. So in that case, let's go to we only have a few sisters here. So remember we used to have more sisters, didn't we? At one point, more sisters than brothers. Okay, let's hear from Sister Portia then, if it's okay with Sister Portia. Unless you want me to come back, that's fine. I can come back later. Yeah.
It's okay, Prof.
It's okay.
I can totally do that. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. Go on, please.
Let me go. One moment. Let me go outside. Okay. Pardon me. 1 second.
Yeah, so we are waiting for Sister Portia to position
herself. Pardon about that.
So share her thinking with us.
I'm ready now.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Okay, so there are 2 paragraphs, and I'm going to take them line by line. So the first one, basically, it's basically saying questions can lead to more questions. And then the second sentence says, for instance, there are some philosophers, proposed philosophers, I'll call them, that can try to comprehend life through a bookish way. And I put spelling behind bookish because maybe that's not a word. But basically, they have a lot of smart sense when it comes to going 1 + 1 = 2, or gravity exists because this and that. So they can be very smart in that regard. And they cannot fathom then, based on that book sense, they cannot fathom that 1 + 1 could equal 1 trillion, or not even equal a trillion. 1 + 1 could equal an antelope. No way in their thinking they can think that. It has to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way up, and always in English language, allegedly. Then the third sentence says, hence, perhaps those proposed philosophers, they miss the unexplained. In that going only in an English way of looking at it, only in the book way of how life is, so much is missed, which is the unexplained. Then number 4, those proposed philosophers, they could conclude then, even though we know it's not true, as Professor Kwame has was just mentioning an example, they could then conclude in that 15th century upon, and of course, not that Europeans hadn't been in Africa before the 15th century. I'm talking about the 15th century with the racial capitalist systems. So then in their way of try to rationalize, they referring to this book, if a man pulls himself up by the book straps, I'm paraphrasing, if he is a white man, then he can be superior to these black men. You see, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you could see how they did conclude that they were superior to even an ant, let alone a man. But they could even think, oh, these ants can't teach us anything. We know everything. And then sentence number 5 says, thus, if those proposed philosophers have someone to support their bookishness, then all the better. because now they're all saying the same thing. They're hanging around only people who are agreeing. And of course, there are laws that would make it so. If a person dares say something that was considered to be a heretic or blasphemy, they could have their lives killed. So not only that, you got the laws having these people conform, and no one is there trying to challenge. I'm talking about in those people, because Black people have been resisting oppression for a long time, and arguably any people resist oppression. But those who decide to just be quiet and, what is it? Stay in the congregation, to use a Christian reference. They just shut up and they just say, yep, yep, because the book says so. The book says so, yep, yep, yep. And then the sixth sentence says, those proposed philosophers, they utilize such bookishness to further argue their thinking. So they're not stepping outside of or into the unexplained. They wouldn't dare go into unexplained, because in their mind it has to be this way. It cannot be any other way. If someone says it's any other way, they are a heretic. They are blasphemy, for example. Then 7 goes on. It says that so philosophers could think again that Black people, our ancestors, were inferior, which of course is a fallacy, because they're in their own echo. No one is saying, wait a minute, if we have the same blood, and wait a minute, what's this melanin calling? Do we even know how melanin works? They can't even go there. No, that's how it is. It's in the book, and the book says so. And so they believe those proposed philosophers their lies. 8 says, by denying the unexplainedness, by denying, well, what if, could it be, have you considered, by denying that unexplainedness, then they just keep contradicting themselves. And an easy example is, well, does matter not matter? Uh, nope, matter does not matter. So then you don't matter, you see? And then they'll get another argument to refute going into that critical thinking. And then the last sentence, it just references another way that these contradictions can happen. Now to the second paragraph. Interesting, such a purview, there can only be a heavy with such a purview, there can only be a focus on either or. There can never be in between. It is either this or it's that. And then the second sentence goes on to explain that all that does, when they're saying it's an either or, it's just further going into their own way of thinking. And then the third sentence says, it's almost, how I gathered it, it's almost a detachment. I'm using one of the words here. It's almost a detachment from reality. So I said earlier, they believe their own lives. And they say after a while, we believe, a person can believe their own lives. In my additional thinking, I don't think that's true. I think they know that this is not this, but stuff comes into play, having the cheese, having the wine, having the status. And so it is just a rules to ease the guilt of why they are going after these things. In other words, I will believe they could say, those proposed philosophers, that these men are inferior to us. These women can only be women who are in the kitchen. I have to believe that, because if I try to think differently, then I won't be able to be considered so important. I won't be able to travel around the world and tell everybody how much I know. I being the proposed philosophers. So then the last sentence goes on to say that the second to last goes on to say that basically in such a type of silo, that's what I call it, a silo thinking, an echo thinking, all you're going to get is contradictions. And if that investigation into a critical thinking, if that really goes into to the way that our ancestors did, because they were at a place, in my opinion, that they knew they didn't know everything, yet they had a reverence for everything. We don't know everything, and we can have a reverence for everything. So the last sentence I didn't get to, but all this is to say is right now in the current context, our King Brother Pigeon has kindly shared in the WhatsApp groups about what's happening in East Africa. And when I see President Ruto, if I had his ear and I could make sure that my life wasn't threatened, allegedly, him or President Trump, allegedly, and they could hear me not in their own lives, then I would want to say to them, you know, you are perpetuating serious atrocities, question mark, because in these racial capitalist systems, we cannot say something. We have to always cover ourselves with a question mark, because again, that type of thinking is asking the question but already determining the answer. I yield.
Hello, silence is too much.
Oh, my apologies. Again, I'm muted. Sister Portia, thank you, Brother Dr. Phiri, for drawing my attention to. Sister Portia, okay, she's gone. Brother Pigeon.
Yes, no,
Ah,
yes,
yeah.
12,
I
I'm
was,
here.
yeah, I had a question for you. My question is, I believe you listened carefully to what Brother Pigeon said. Is that correct?
I could not hear him so well.
Or you could, okay. In that case, it's okay. So thank you, Brother Pigeon. Did you listen carefully to what Sister Portia said?
Not that carefully because I was moving up and down a bit, Brother Kwame. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. So this is my way of checking that we are listening to one another. Yeah. So let's go to. Let me check who else can speak. Then, so I don't call someone to speak if they have said they can't speak.
No one
Right.
so far.
No one.
Brother
Yeah.
Kwame.
Okay. Good, brother. Welcome. What is your thinking so far, please?
Greetings.
Greetings.
I think as you might hear the echo in the argument.
Yeah, we can't hear you, brother. Welcome. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Well. We can hear you, but it's hard to understand. It's not very clear, basically.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better now.
I'm not in a safe place.
Right.
I'm driving. That's
Okay.
why the echo in the car cabin.
Right.
But I joined very late. I could not even hear the meeting.
Right. Okay.
But as you have started, you have alluded something to, you made an example of uranium.
Yes, as having, yeah, as a radioactive substance. Yes.
That interested me a bit because we have got a lot of uranium resource in Namibia. But
Yes.
I couldn't relate it to anything, your example, because I didn't hear well and I couldn't hear the reading as well. And Brother Pigeon was very muffled. I couldn't hear him. The Portia was breaking the whole way. No, it's in fact my network that is breaking. So I seriously didn't hear anything. So I'm in a complete zero situation. Thank you.
It's fine. So what you can do, just read the text on the screen. I believe you have access to that, and then share your thinking later. Yeah.
I
You
can't
don't,
read because I'm driving.
because you are driving. Okay.
Yes.
All right. No problem. All right.
So I'll try to
We hear
listen and grasp bits and bits.
comment. Yeah. All right. No,
Thank you.
that's fine, brother. Let's hear from brother Philip, please. Brother Philip.
Hi. Good
Yeah,
evening.
good evening. What is your thinking?
I'm
You
a little.
don't need to comment on what others have said. You can just comment on yourself and what you think about the paragraphs highlighted on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little bit hazy about the context. My feeling is that philosophy in the Western world, somehow philosophy drives the community. And so, which includes racism. And so Nkrumah is examining the fundamental racism. I don't know if I'm correct.
Where is that in the text?
I'm commenting on the context of the text.
Yeah, but yes, but what is the text saying? Is the text, can the text be interpreted the way you have? I'm not saying you are right or wrong. I'm just asking, do you think the text is amenable to your interpretation?
Well, that is my difficulty, because I'm trying to put the text in context in order to it.
Right. Okay. So putting the text in context is excellent, and I think those who have spoken so far have both put the text in context. So in that sense, as a class, we are doing very well, because sometimes when you read a text, it's hard to relate the text to your surroundings.
Yeah.
So when people are already linking the text to their surroundings, then I think we will agree that Nkrumah has done a great job because he's been able to get us to think about our environment in philosophical terms, having, if you like, we all have what is called philosophical conscience. Not everybody's conscience is alive, and so, if you like, he has woken up that conscience in us so that we are beginning to see things around us in terms of philosophy. So no, please, if you have anything more to add, feel free to do so. If not, I can come back to you when things become clearer and less hazy.
So I don't know whether there were more direct ways for Nkrumah to express his Pan-Africanism. Is this because it takes a little bit to comprehend this, then also to relate it? But I'll leave it.
But you have just related it. So that means you are doing a very good job. Even though Nkrumah was difficult, as you are saying.
I don't know whether philosophy actually drives the European community. The philosophers, or let's say the philosophers, actually drive. I do not know.
I think we agreed at the end of chapter 3,
right,
towards the end, that as far as we know, the philosophers of today have given up on explaining the world to us. If anything happens, you hardly see philosophers come together and say, this is what we think, or we think this is wrong, or this is right. Philosophers are not interested. They are just interested in sitting behind their desks in universities and poring over other things apart from the problems of the world. They are not interested, as far as we know, as far as we can see. And that is why the politicians have taken over. Even though the politicians themselves sometimes have no clue. They just happen to stand for election. They are voted for, they become president, and then they want to loot, because that is all they know. So I think we all agree on that. So, but if you are asking the question, what is it that drives a society? Well, it is the what is called the dominant ideology. And what is the dominant? The dominant ideology are the dominant ideas of the leading elites or the dominant elites. So, yeah. So in Ghana, for instance, where you are, what is the dominant political economic perspective politically?
Oh,
Basically,
you just grab as much as you can for yourself, in fact.
and which party can best manage the new colonial economy? That's really what they are fighting over. And they say, well, we are better than you. We can manage the new colonial economy better than you. And then MPP said, no, you can't. You know, and then the people listen and they vote. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, no one is, well, as far as I can see, no one is actually asking the important questions, which is how do we unite to control our continental resources so we can set prices and stop accepting paper as money and give away raw materials like gold, diamond, and so on. Go for paper, which is what the dollar is. I mean, does it make sense? But nobody's asking those questions. So yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, Brother Philip, for your thought, your thinking. Please feel free to let me know if you want to add more later. Yeah. Let's now go to welcome Don. Let's now go to Brother Coco. Thank you. Brother Coco? What?
Hello, brother. I
Yes.
am working on the old police station.
Of course.
So I don't know if there's someone else who can share their thinking now, and then I can come.
There are more people.
Thank you.
Lots of people. Don't worry.
Sister Tapua's hand is up.
Yeah, she has already spoken. I'll come to her when I can. Let's hear from Dr. Phiri. Sister Tapuwa has spoken. Yes.
No, I haven't.
Sister Tapuwa?
I haven't. I passed.
Oh, you did? Did you? Oh, of course. My apologies. Oh, God. Okay, Sister Tapuwa, let's hear from you, please. Thank you.
What I'm going to say is based on the shock that I experienced when I came back to live in Africa full time. Because when you live in Europe for a long time,
hold on. You mean you're not going to address the text?
I'm going to address the text. That's what I'm saying. I'm giving you the background to how I'm going to address the text.
Wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful.
Because when you live out of Africa for a bit, or for a long time, you kind of detach from how Africans attribute things to the spiritual world, where almost anything and everything is influenced by spirit. So when I read the last paragraph, particularly the first sentence, I had questions there. The sentence reads, there, Locke denies that matter is active, attributing all activity to spirit. That's a topic sentence for that paragraph. And what comes after it explains that activity to spirit. So he then, Nkrumah then says, nevertheless, in his theory of perception, that's Locke, he says that corpuscles travel, and for me, that's the spirit bit that we refer to in an African context, where when something happens, when you see something, people will attribute it to some kind of spiritual experience or a spiritual nudge that makes you see things or hear things in a particular way. You just don't, matter does not just exist, it exists to influence you. So that's what I'm reading there. When he says that the corpuscles travel from a perceived object to an appropriate organ of sense in order that we should be able to perceive it. These corpuscles are said by him to be parts of the perceived object which detach themselves and subject us to a kind of radiative bombardment. That's exactly what I think people experience, because there's always that extra interpretation of what is happening in one's environment and one's universe that goes just beyond seeing an object, as in the European sense of seeing the object. Any object will relate to you, whether it be a tree, a root, the road, someone steals from you. There's always that extra interpretation that there's another level at which we are operating. And when we look at the last sentence, or last but one, Nkrumah says here, Locke patently contradicts himself. For this activity of matter is not said by him to be induced, but original and original natural. That's exactly how people in my environment are behaving. They just believe it is natural for objects that look inanimate, that from a European point of view, do not influence you in any way. I remember walking, I was with my cousin, and it was hot, and I was walking, and I came and there was a big tree with a nice shade, and I said, wow, this is so cool. I think we should stop here for a while. And she says, oh, we're not allowed to say that because there could be spirits in the tree and they'll come with us. So that mental capacity of being able to perceive things and being part and parcel of nature is what I see being explained here. I end by thinking there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you've given us all food for thought. Thank you. Right, let's hear from Dr. Phiri.
Okay, thank you. You see, I just want, I'll come back to the text, but there's something that I wanted just to highlight, which is quite interesting. And I'm lucky, possibly, that I share quite some common elements with Kwame Nkrumah. That's the funny part. Not because I saved the world and stuff, but I come from a seminary, so I studied philosophy when I studied. So whenever I'm reading Kwame Nkrumah, some of the text is quite difficult to follow. Sometimes it disturbs the flow of your reading. Sometimes you have to wait to say, what is he trying to say? Like if you read this one, like I would even understand Brother Philip when he was trying to say that, how does that translate into the Pan-Africanism and stuff? Because it's not like a direct language. It's like Kwame Nkrumah is like, according to me, when I read it and my background in philosophy, it's like he is struggling with these guys. And these people are writing, these are Europeans who are writing in the 15th century and 16th century. Okay. And if you read that, Kwame Nkrumah is actually critiquing their works. Like, for example, John Locke is one of those ones. He was actually an English man who was a philosopher. So he reads philosophy, but he found that, but there's something that was happening context-wise during that time. Remember that whenever Locke was writing, for him, black people were not. Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Phiri.
Yes.
I think you've raised a very important point. So if you pause there, I'd like to share something, then you continue.
Thank you. Okay.
No problem. So when we started reading, when we read this, when Sister Portia read these two paragraphs for us, we've had a few contributions, but no one has yet asked, why is John Locke and his magnus opus, an essay of human understanding, why is it right in the middle of the reading? And what is the implication of that for Africa? So I think in the same way as when we look at Aristotle, further back and we ask ourselves, what is the importance of Aristotle to us as Africans? When we looked at the history and found out he's the one that helped to groom, well, not groom is not the right word, but to educate a young man called Alexander, who later became the Great, who was the one that went to steal the books, our books for Aristotle. That gave us understanding and context, didn't it? So why is John Locke at the heart of what we are reading? And I think just in 1 or 2 minutes, let me bring to your attention a few things. I think Brother Dr. Phiri has already started alluding to it, and that is it. And that is that John Locke's father is also called John Locke. John Locke's father fought in the parliamentary army against the army of the king, right? So this was the English Civil War, okay? And if you remember, the parliamentary army was led by a gentleman called Oliver Cromwell, okay? And it was through him that the monarchy was abolished. And the monarchy was only restored under Charles II in 1660. We can't go into his vindictiveness and all that. We can leave all that aside, yeah? But anyway, John Locke was a philosopher. And essentially, if you ask yourself, why would John Locke write a book titled An Essay on Human Understanding? Right? Remember, this is a boy growing up in a context where there is war. And they are all trying to get their head around why the English are fighting each other. Why are they fighting one another? They are fighting one another because one group says, well, the king has a divine right to rule us and do what he likes. The other said, no, he doesn't have that divine right, etc., etc. So I think that those two things are important. John Locke, as a young man growing up in a household where his father was an army officer, and then he growing up, becoming a philosopher, that then wrote political philosophy that said that we should have democracy, basically. So for those of you also who know, John Locke's ideas travel across the Atlantic to what is today the United States of America. Because when they fought the English because they wanted to be free, John Locke's ideas is one of the ideas they used. So I think this context is important for us to then understand why Nkrumah will be drawing on John Locke. Because if you have fought, if your ideas have been used to fight the English, in America, but the same English are in Africa, stealing land in Kenya, suppressing Mau Mau, suppressing Mau Mau, in South Africa, suppressing the groups there and so on and so forth. And in Ghana and other places, they are there, and they are controlling colonial economies. You understand? So with this understanding, why would you then come and colonize others, etc., etc., etc.? I'll pause there. So, but Dr. Phiri, I wanted to give that context so people see the importance of what we are reading and why John Locke is at the heart of what we are reading, because we can say that any talk of democracy, the way we understand it today, has its roots where? In the writings of John Locke. Not that Africa has to look to the English for democracy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that political democracy in the way in which it has come to us through the English was influenced largely by John Locke. Thank you. Yeah. So now, Dr. Phiri, Dr. Phiri, now you may proceed.
No, it's okay. Yes, thank you very much for that. Yes. So, whenever I'm reading this book, I always make a reference to where I start, where it starts. He's talking about a philosophy in which a black person is reading a philosophy that does not identify with him or her. That's what he's talking about. Kwame Nkrumah, the book starts under philosophy. And he's also trying to talk about education, that actually, what does it educate us? Because the people who are writing this philosophy, They had no idea. Actually, if you realize that the time of John Locke and others who wrote almost around this the same time, they will talk about human beings are equal. But according to them, black people were not human beings, because some of them, when they were talking about this equality, going to church, even within their Christianity, saying that we are all equal in the eyes of God, according to them, they would have left some slaves locked in a cage, which were black people. So that means everything that is written here was never. So whenever I write, if you read just the topic of his essay, it's called Human Understanding. According to Kwame Nkrumah, he's trying to say whose human understanding, whose perspective, like what Brother Kwame was also saying now, is that it was because these people are writing about themselves. Then they project that philosophy to define the whole world. If they do that, that means those people who are not included within that particular philosophy, their humanity is not recognized. Yeah. So the reason why Kwame Nkrumah actually is writing, whenever he talks about this, Locke talks about matter and the spirit, Kwame Nkrumah is like struggling in his understanding as a student of philosophy, looking at these philosophers talking right to him about what is human understanding, when in actual fact, what are they're just talking about their own perspective. That's why I find that there's a problem in the discourse of decoloniality, which is called provincialization, where people, the West assumed that their knowledge is the knowledge for everyone. But once you do that, that means everyone else should define the world in the eyes of the West. So if you look at everything that Nkrumah is trying to analyze here, he's trying actually to say, no, Locke is talking about one thing here, where he makes everything within as if it's spirit. Because he's talking about matter, spirit. If you realize, Kwame Nkrumah is talking about the issue of materiality and spirituality. And actually, the African point of view is more like balanced between the two. Sometimes there's a dialectical relationship between the two. So he's trying also to say, like, if you're a student in philosophy, you read the philosophy, you ask yourself, like, what he's doing? What are these people writing about? What were they even discussing about? But why are they projecting this particular philosophy as if it is for everyone? So what Nkrumah is doing here is trying now to oppose that, to say, no, there are many perspectives of looking at something. And sometimes even the perspective that is being pushed here for making everything within the context of the spirit is actually in itself contradictory, because it also points to the very thing that Locke is negating. Yeah. So I just wanted just to explain that, because whenever I'm reading, sometimes I also get, whenever I'm reading, I get stuck. Then I ask myself, okay, what is he trying to say, in this thing? Then I look at the context in which the particular paragraph is. One of the things that this is the book that, of most of Kwame Nkrumah's books, this is the most frustrating for me, because it makes me stop. Sometimes he goes to science, full-time science.
You are not the only one, brother.
Yes, thank you. Let me stop there. No, I'm just going to give the background.
I've had Pan-African brothers and sisters who will read all other Nkrumah's books and not touch this one, and which is why we are doing these classes, because we want people to understand that it's not as hard as they think. And Dr. Phiri, I mean, listening to you, I think you've got it. I mean, you've got it. You have deconstructed the paragraph the same way as Sister Tapuwa did. That yes. So Nkrumah is, if you like, challenging us, etc. Anyway, so thank you very much for sharing your thinking. Yeah. Thank you very much. Let's now go to another sister. If there's a sister, if not, we'll go to another brother. Let's hear from Brother Glenroy, please.
I'm not sure if Glenroy is able to speak, Brother Kwame.
Okay. Has he said so in the chat?
Yeah, he did say so.
Okay. Please share so Brother Pigeon has shared the book, the essay in the chat. So please download it and have a look at it. An essay concerning human understanding. Yeah, human understanding. Is it English understanding, or is it the understanding of black people too? That's what the Phiri is drawing our attention to. That Nkrumah is challenging that Locke is talking about human understanding. And why do you impose your idea on the rest of us? Even if that is your understanding, why do you impose that on all of us? Yeah. So let's hear from Brother Ifo then. Yeah. Brother Ifo, are you able to speak? Okay, you are on phone. Okay, you can't speak from what I can see. You can speak?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you indeed.
Okay, I'll be very brief because I am preparing for a black men's
okay,
and I'm preparing my drums for them. So,
no worries.
So my reflections on the text is similar to what was shared earlier about the presumption that the colonial misunderstanding of the world is universal. And I'm speaking on that regarding the description of matter, because the presumption from the colonial world is that matter is inanimate. But there are lots of other views of the world that refer to the rocks and the water as our grandfather and our grandmothers. And so your relationship to what in English they will call inanimate objects is different, because we're talking about this spirit. And I think the way in which a society grows or decays is sometimes related to if there's a sacred relationship with the land and with the so-called inanimate object, or if it is known, if it is regarded as family. Those are my thoughts.
I know you are prepared to go somewhere. If you can't speak further, that's fine. But I wanted to.
No, I'm still here. I'm just okay. I'm testing drums and tuning with them, so okay. I'll be loud.
That's fine. I just wanted to say that. Yes. So we are not saying that all Europeans think like this. Yeah, we're not saying that what Locke is saying is how all Europeans think, because there are European Marxists as well who take the position that, say, an African can take. So what we are saying is that it is the philosophical idealists who think the way that Locke is thinking. And even given that, to then project that to all idealists is not correct, as you have rightly said. So yeah. So thank you very much for sharing your thinking. Let's now hear from. Can Sister Amma speak? Let me check the chat. Sorry, what do you want shared in the WhatsApp group? Yeah, Brother Pigeon, share the book in the WhatsApp group and also share it in the Telegram library thing. Thank you. So let's now hear from Dawn. Who is Dawn? Dawn, can you identify yourself? The Dawn. And share your thinking, please. Feel free to pass on if you want. Thank you.
Sorry, I just clicked on a link. It's my first time, so I'm just listening
welcome
to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Don, welcome. Where are you joining us from? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm from Canada.
Canada. Oh, like our brother Ifo. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you join us. We hope you join us more often.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you so much. So let's hear from. Let's see, Dr. Phiri has spoken. Let's hear from Brother Sam, PC Man. Brother Sam, are you able to share your thinking? Brother Sam, PC Man. You need to unmute yourself, Brother Sam, if you are speaking. Okay, Brother Sam is not yet speaking. Okay, let's hear from... Okay, I think we've heard from Brother Sam has unmuted, but it's not speaking. Okay, I think we've heard from everyone. Everyone who is here can speak has now spoken. The time is 20 past 8. Brother Coco is not yet where he can speak. So Brother Welcome is driving. Brother Don is listening. Sister Amma can't speak. So Brother Glory can't speak either. Sister Grace can't speak. So yeah, so that's it. Everybody has shared their thinking. Okay. So does anybody else want to share further thoughts on what we have read? Yes, Sister Portia.
Yes, thank you so much. We were talking last week about how about food on Saturday, and how all this food that we were eating, indigenous Akibalon food, it's actually healthy for us. And we were taught that that food was bad, that what was good for us is processed food. By the way, I saw another article on processed food saying that it's linked to heart complications. Just saw the article today. So everything that we already are, we were taught not to be that we had to be different. And that's why I appreciate King Brother Ifo, not just because he's saying what I say, going back to my echo point. It's because it is reaffirming that what former Ghanaian President Kwame Nkrumah is trying to do in these writings is to have us return to our indigenous Akibalanese ways. And here in this text, how I saw it, and that's why I appreciate what King Brother Ifo was saying. He was basically saying that you have some people who are human beings like us. They're human beings, but then in their systems, they say, well, they now all of a sudden are the smartest. They now all of a sudden have the awards. They now all of a sudden, because they've traveled, know everything about the freaking world. You can't even know who knows even the country of origin. Well, there's something we have not known in the country of origin where we are. Know that we all Africans, arguably. But my point is, so these persons, how I take this passage that I want to emphasize is, said proposed philosophers don't already decree that they know the way. It can't be multiple ways. It only is one way. And then on top of that, then they go out in the world and for whatever reason, through calculation, manipulation, hoodwinking, has convinced us to give up our indigenous food so that we can go get a degree somewhere in another part of the world, and then we educate it. A degree does not educate us. That is the system saying we needed that degree. And not that there weren't universities in Akibalan before. Of course there were. But I'm talking about a degree in a racial capitalism context where everything is referenced toward Europe. Everything is about Europe. No other continents. And if it's a reference to Africa, it's always in an inferiorized context. So no, we can reject that because we matter. If someone come and say, Portia, you are ... I can reject them of what they're saying. Just because they say it doesn't make it true. So when we return to our indigenous Akibalanese ways, which we consistently keep saying on these calls, this is where our unification and liberation will come. It will not come from those oppressive institutions or ways of thinking. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you so much for sharing your thinking. So Brother Alpha's hand is up as well. So we are sharing further thinking, everyone. If you want to share your further thinking, please feel free. Brother Alpha, then
Okay.
I'll go to Brother.
Yes. The last speaker just reminded me of a joke we used to make about 20 or 30 years ago. It was called, "What is the definition of PhD?" There's two definitions. One is permanent head damage, because it actually messes with your head when you go to Colonial school. Luckily, it's not permanent. And then the other one is piled higher and deeper. And what they're talking about piling is nonsense, which in some people call BS. You know, the stuff that comes out of a cow. So it's just nonsense that is piled high, and then we are pretending that it's actually deep wisdom. So I think that there is a need, a deep need for us to remember who we are, and also to remember who we are not. Because sometimes when we go to school, especially colonial schools, we end up trying to mimic a European or mimic an Arab person, or in recent times maybe try to mimic someone from Asia. But we forget to respect and reverence the wisdom of the deep wisdom of our ancestors. So I'm looking forward to more and more of us respecting and bringing back in the spirit of Sankofa the deep knowledge that we need to bring from back and then bring it to today. I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that we will all agree that there are three strands of culture competing on the continent. There is the Islamic culture, there is the Euro-Christian culture, and there is a traditional African culture, and that these three cultures are competing, and sometimes they are animating ideologies actually contradict one another, and that those who the Euro-Christians, Africans on the continent, that there's nothing you can tell them about not believing in a white God, and they will listen to you. For them, God is white, and nothing you say will convince them. In fact, they believe that Jesus is a white man. And then there are the Islamic Christians, and you can't stop them from going to the mosque. You know, there's nothing you can say will convince them that Jesus is not just a prophet and not a son of God, etc., etc. And then the traditional Africans, who there's nothing you will say that will convince them that pouring libation is evil. So I'm saying that these three cultures exist. They are competing. Sometimes they are contradictory. Within all these three groups, there are hardcore. We have the hardcore, those who nothing you say will change their mind. And then we have around the hardcore, the periphery, who will listen to argument and maybe change. The challenge we have is not to condemn. I'm not saying anybody condemn anybody. I'm just saying that the challenge that we have as Africans is not to say that this African is evil or bad or whatever, and mine is good. But the challenge we have is, how do we unify? How do we get these three competing cultures to tap into the humanist principles of Africa so that we can begin to build a united Africa? That, I think, is the challenge. And I just thought I will remind us all about that. Thank you. Brother Sam, let's hear your thinking, please, on the text. Please, you don't need to comment on comments. You can just share your thinking directly. However, it's up to you what you want to do. Thanks. Yes, Brother Sam? Are you speaking? Because we can't hear you, Brother Sam. Brother Sam? I think Brother Sam's.
Brother Kwame, I think
yeah,
Brother Sam might have to go out and come back because he's been
yeah,
struggling.
yeah. I know, Brother Sam. Log off and log back on. Maybe that would work. Yeah. Thank you, Brother P. You have your hand up. Is you want to share further thinking?
Yeah, Brother Kwame, there are a few things that have come to my mind. One, I know we've been talking about education and the rest, but remember in the introduction, Nkrumah introduced us to colonial students.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he brought the element of how what they are taught and philosophy they are exposed to influence who they become out of that education.
Yes.
And I think
yes. Mm-hmm.
there are very three elements that Nkrumah was very clear about. And I think later on you define it very clearly as we were moving forward. That there are those who come out of such education as being conservative.
Mm-hmm.
There are those who come out of that education as either being liberals. But Nkrumah then end that section by describing that there are those who seek the education for the purpose of emancipation or whatever the struggle and justice, which then becomes part of the radicals. And he actually says he's one of them. Now, that is the element that it appears to me to be the first synthesis that Nkrumah now starting to emphasize later when you bring those three strands. That yes, he went to the colonial or the Western education in the universities he studied, but his intention was to pick what he could pick there to help him to advance the goal of emancipation and liberation, which does not mean that by him being educated in those institutions, then he's a product of their teaching or education. But the intention for him to go there, and I think, Brother Kwame, you have said it even before, sometimes back, how he ended up going to the university he went to. And it was very clear from his admission in the introduction that he had a purpose on why he went there. And when he came back and did what he did and actually led to the Ghana's independence, it was very clear that he was admitting the reason he went there that he describes in the introduction of the book. Now, I had also equally mentioned that Locke appeared idealist in my submission. But it is more clear here, and I think we had also tried to mention this and talk about this in, I think in chapter 1. The context of the two strong opposing minds, the radical materialist and the radical idealist, and the element of this spirit being perceived to be outside matter. Nothing is still coming back here. That it is not that which is physical is what is matter alone. Even that which is not physical is still matter in another state. And I think, Brother Kwame, you explained this in some elements sometimes back. That the distinction of trying to make spirit to be different from matter, and when we bring this element of corpuscles or corpuscles and that perception, is still matter in a different form. And they try by various philosophers to try to distinguish them as different. And I think that's what Brother Nkrumah is trying to show, the inability or the failure of Locke, trying to bring the perception as being different with the physical movement. Because it doesn't mean that you must physically move from where you are to make a step to show that you have moved. But either whatever you conceive or through thinking, you can also move your mind to a different space. And that is still movement. But what I wanted to link here is that Nkrumah stated through, it was called categorical conversion, that even that what is vapor has come from something that was solid. It has moved different stages to be vapor, to be air, to be oxygen, to be whatever it is, but it still has some presence of physicality. And what we were trying to explain back then, Brother, if I remember, is that the idea, I think it was Thales or Berkeley, the idealist philosophers, that there can exist the brain or the mind without the body. And this is the struggle I'm seeing with the Locke here, and
Yeah,
is trying to bring that.
I think therefore I am. That is a Cartesian
Yes,
perspective. I think.
yes, because as Sister Tapuwa said, was spiritual and everything was spiritual. But doesn't mean that by saying everything was spiritual, it was not physical as well. It doesn't mean it was not matter, whether it is in spirit or whatever form. It doesn't mean by saying matter opposes spirit.
And
Spirit
that is why Sister Tapuwa was saying that what Nkrumah is explaining is actually our perspective, that we see both dimensions. And Dr. Phiri also said that sometimes we have a balanced view of reality. For us, it's not all spirit or not all matter. Yeah. So yes, brother.
But what I'm pointing again is that
Mm.
when matter is being used as just opposed to spirit, it's like trying to say matter is here, spirit is here. Well, in Nkrumah's thinking is that spirit is still element of matter in a different form. It's not that spirit is there and matter is different side, as if matter is physical and fighting spirit, because both abstract and concrete are still part of that what is matter. So this explanation that matter is only what is physical and what is spiritual is not matter is the clear confusion that comes in, you see? Because you see, remember when you asked sometimes back on the idea of minding, that if somebody says that you are minding or you are thinking, can you think without the brain? Is thinking not a process of the brain, which might be a physical part of our body that moves in a different stage? In that element, thinking. So both what is abstract and concrete is still matter, but in a different category. If that can be then harmonized in thinking, then we will not be seeing the contradiction of competing ideas here, which the West and idealists are trying to bring in, like Locke, trying to distinguish it as a different thing from these categories. But actually, whether it is spirit, whether it is concrete or abstract, is still matter in a different form. So matter can be either in solid, liquid, or vapor. And that is I think that's what Nkrumah is trying to bring his position in this contest between hardcore materialists and hardcore idealists. That this what you are calling is hardcore or opposing and not opposing, they are content of the same thing. So whether you take it natural or whatever format you're taking it, is content of the same. So that's something I was thinking to bring this maybe to also I can maybe put it into the conversation as well. Thank you.
No, it's great. So would you say that if we if we take what Dr. Phiri said earlier and then add what you have said, could we then say that having misunderstood the universe, they sought to impose their misunderstanding on us?
That is true. Because you see, what Sister Tapuwa was saying, we could perceive any reality, even in spiritual realm, what somebody could call a spiritual realm, you see. You can still perceive that which is you thinking in any other physical format. Like you could speak to spirit, you could speak to your ancestors. That does not mean that your ancestors never existed. It's that they're in a different realm, in a different form of that matter. And you can connect and tap to them. But then these people, they try to think that it's too distinct, that it's only I am, that what you're saying, I am because whatever. And that's what brings the individualism in it, the separation of individual independentness. But as we see the interconnectedness of the two, that's why it's more of the egalitarian approach rather than individualistic approach, you see?
Interesting.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope we are all aware, I thought I wanted to say that earlier, that the certification of education, when you attend school and you get certificate from whatever to PhD, whatever. I hope we all remember that they came from us. Yeah. So when we are speaking negatively of PhDs, let's remember to be conscious that we are not throwing away, as we say in Africa, the baby with the bathwater. Yeah. That
Professor Kwame.
Yes.
I want to come into that because I've heard you bring this point up, and I want to bring a evidence of why this point is brought up, which also does not contradict your point. So please let me
Okay.
clarify. Okay,
Okay.
and
But
I'll
before
leave
you
King.
but before you
Yeah.
clarify, I hope you understand. I'm not saying that there's a contradiction between what was said. I'm not saying there was a contradiction. Yeah. All right. Please carry on.
Okay. Sure. I'll leave King Brother Ifo to clarify if he so may. But basically, this is
Mm,
why I said the educational system from racial capitalist systems. And this is why I also said, noted we had universities in Akibulan
mm,
before the 15th century. So I have made this before, yet I want to say again, yes, we had a way of learning that was not harmful. This is very important. Whereas in the racial capitalist systems, even the structure of how one gets to learn is harmful, because if you don't have money, if you don't have a certain group of people who can vouch for you, if you don't pass those standardized tests, which are very, very skewed in terms of perceived European history, arguably, if you don't have any of those things, if you were not even a man at a certain time and place, you could not get that formal indoctrinated education, arguably. So this is all I am saying, and I'm so
mm,
glad I had this chance to clarify. So yes,
mm,
the formal education or the ways of indigenous ways of learning or the academic ways of learning before the 15th century in different areas of Akibalan, those were ways of learning, helping, healing, communal. Yet racial capitalist systems ways of learning are heavily indoctrinated to push and
mm,
dominate and
mm,
calculate and destroy, in my opinion.
mm. And I think there is evidence to back up what you've just said. Let's hear from brother Sam and brother Coco in that order. Is that okay? Because I think they haven't spoken yet. Brother Sam, can you go first? Brother Sam? Okay, Brother Sam is still not ready. So let's hear from Brother Coco. Then Brother Sam can come in when he comes back. Brother Pigeon, can you contact Brother Sam for us? See if everything is okay at his end. Brother Coco, please proceed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and revolutionary greetings to you all, sisters and brothers on the call tonight. This has been an interesting conversation, especially of a paragraph that looked complex at first, but the brothers and sisters pulled it apart until it made some sense. The key issue here is matter passive and dead, or does matter possess activity in itself? So we will remember what the dualists and idealists were doing at first, which was to try to separate reality into matter and then into ideas, so spirit, mind, and soul, according to them. And what they saw was spirit, mind, and soul was active, thinking, as well as conscious. But what Dr. Nkrumah does here, he opposes this split. And he thinks matter is not dead or fundamentally passive. And mind emerges from material reality. So, Comrade Pigbin, you are looking for Cogito Ergo Sum by René Descartes. So he is the French philosopher who came up with that. And you rightly said, thoughts, they come from the mind, and the mind come from the gray matter. And that gray matter is matter. That's why it's called gray matter. So he thinks activity belongs to matter itself, and that there is no need for a separate spiritual substance to explain motion, life, or thought. And having said that, I started thinking about the body itself. Our body is made up of matter. Is made up of matter. Of course, there will be a spirit and all of those things, but spirit alone does not move our body. It doesn't. That blood that circulates through our body, it's matter. And the nerves, which are throughout all of our body, they are matter. So when you have a feeling, you get pricked by something, it goes all the way to the brain, and then the brain sends it back to you to realize, oh, you are bending your finger. Or even when you see something through the light, it comes to your brain before the brain interprets it and sends it back. That again is matter involved in that. But why the inertness of matter, or what does the inertness of matter mean? According to the philosophers, then it meant that matter was supposedly cannot initiate activity on its own. That's the inertness of matter, which they are discussing here. And these classical philosophers, they treated matter like a lifeless object that's been acted upon by who? By God, by spirit, by soul, or mind. And then the last one is an external force, is the idea to make sure that they always own all of those ideas. That is the reason. They have to own all those ideas. They have to own God. They have to own the passage to God. They have to own all of those stuff by separating matter from spirits. And then Dr. Nkrumah goes further than physics, and he says, the philosophers seek an intellectual parallel to physical motion. What this means is that they are moving from matter cannot move by itself to matter also cannot think. It cannot perceive or it cannot feel. So in a way, they are making matter a stupid being and something which is unintelligent in an ordinary sense. What he means then by that is that they mean by that is that matter is believed to possess no consciousness or inner activity whatsoever. Then they quote Newton, because let's not forget what Newton did. Newton gave it a mechanical explanation. He gave objects. It describes objects only according to external laws and forces, so that the philosophers were able to interpret it to mean matter itself was passive, or motion was imposed only externally. Let's not forget again what Hegel did. I see parallels here with what Hegel did with the colonialists, because he gave them the ammunition to colonize the Africans. And again, it goes back to that. We are talking about we're talking about the mission civilators. That mission civilators came because the Europeans felt they were more superior in knowledge. They had all the ideas, they had all the spirits, and their God was superior than the Africans' God. All of those were supported by Hegel, and in the same manner, you can still see what the idealists are trying to do here. And then why are we criticizing Locke? We know about Locke. Locke, for those that don't remember, he was trying to put in a humanist perspective into thinking, into philosophy, and removing God, who was the center of attention at that time. But as we know, that was taken by the Americans for their own purposes. I think Sister Portia and Brother Pigbin, as well as you, Brother Kwame, have already explained some of that. But we know what he talked about, the contradiction of that, so I won't discuss that. So what we are talking about here is why does this matter for consciencism? Why are we always doing this about conscience? Here we are seeing Dr. Nkrumah is trying to again to he's arguing that colonialism was based on European political domination, European religion, and European metaphysics. So all of those were unimported assumptions that spirit mattered, or spirit was more important than matter. And he's trying to destroy that. And soul was all over body. Again, he's trying to destroy that. There's no soul without body. There's no soul without body. And then ideal over material conditions. Again, he's trying to remind us that material conditions matter. So Dr. Nkrumah is arguing all of this because it encourages passivity. It encourages the Africans to wait for the Messiah to come. Or it then leads to a situation where we as African economists wait for the IMF, we wait for people coming from the West with all the ideas, or coming from other economies that have done things to come and develop Africa. Not forget that there are African solutions for African problems. So he is trying to help us to deal with that. And in spirit is primary. Usually this is what people may say. They start to explain suffering only spiritually. They tolerate oppression as metaphysical destiny. They'll start say, okay, suffering is from God. God made suffering. We have to suffer. But that's not how it should be. And then we neglect material transformation. We have land in Africa. We know that Africa is a continent with the most arable land in the world, but we are not transforming because we are waiting for someone else to come with capital or to come with ideas or someone else to come and do it. It's so hurtful to know that multinational corporations are owning land in Africa and the Africans are hungry. Is that situation which is Dr. Nkrumah is trying to fight against. And then he emphasized that material conditions, economic structures, a political struggle, and scientific socialism. So he is trying to emphasize those things that are important to us, so that philosophical argument is supporting revolutionary politics. This is what he's doing, that we have to be revolutionary in our thinking, in our way of doing things. So before I log off, short one here is that very roughly, what he's doing is putting matter before life, and then life before consciousness, and then consciousness before the society. If we are a society that has consciousness, we reclaim our egalitarian ways of doing things, egalitarianism. But this is in contrast with what the Europeans came. The Europeans came with spirit. They say spirit is there, and then with spirit, the spirit can create matter. And that's it. That is what also is behind capitalism. I think Brother Pigbin has rightly said, is that it's individualism, it's behind individualism. And we have to remember that colonization didn't only colonize the land, it colonized ideas. It colonized everything that they could colonize. They colonized knowledge. They colonized everything. So we can't just say we have decolonized ourselves if we haven't decolonized the knowledge. Let me stop there. Thank you.
They've even colonized how we think about the world. Right. Okay. So we've come to the end of the session. Brother Sam, are you still able not to speak, or can you now speak? Can you try and unmute yourself and try? No? I don't know what's going on today, Brother Sam. Anyway.
Brother Kwame, you are to share your thinking. Just to remind you.
Yes, I think I'll share my thinking next week. So let's hear the announcements. If I was to add to what everyone has eloquently said, I would say that the paragraphs we have read are still reminding us that Consciencism is a philosophy and ideology of practice and thought. That we must keep in mind that we are in the business of practice. And this practice essentially is changing the world according to Africans. So changing the world by Africans, for Africans, yeah. So we need to change the world for us. The world will not be changed by others for us. We need to change it for us. And so, Pigeon, if you ask me, you start to share my thinking, this is what I would add, that's what it's reminding us, because it's still on the question of motion. And if we are not sure how what we are doing will change the world, he reminds us, remember in the paragraph before, of what is called the principle of the identity of meaning. You all remember that? Which means that if Pigeon acts in Kenya, Brother Sam acts in South Africa, I take an action here in England, and then Brother Philip takes an action in Ghana, that at the end of the day, our action must all seek to pursue the same goal. That even if they are different, they must mean the same thing if we are to move forward. And that is the intellectual revolution that should guide us. Yeah, the thought that should guide us. Yeah. So I hope, Brother Pigeon, I hope I have shared my thinking there. Can you now? Yes, sir.
No, thank you. And I think it goes deeper, that identity of meaning might be achieved if we have an identity of philosophy and ideology. And that means,
well, not necessarily, in the sense that if someone believes in spirit, yeah, and I believe in matter, for instance, and then, however, the one who believes in spirit, because he or she believes in spirit, subscribes to the humanist principles of Africa, which is possible, we will find that he or she may be doing something that in the end is the same as me being inspired by matter.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's also interesting that you have to put it into practice and see the result.
Precisely, and that is why there is something called liberation theology, yeah, where Catholic priests in Latin America, yeah, change the gospel into a tool, a weapon for liberation. Yeah. So yeah, idealists can fight for liberation too. They can fight for freedom. Just because you're an idealist doesn't mean that, somehow you won't fight for freedom, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I'll pass the mic on to brother Philip to brother Pigeon to share the announcements, and then we can bring the meeting to a close. Brother Pigeon, brother Ifo is up, just so you know. Yeah, Brother Pigeon will let you speak. Don't worry.
Okay. Ifo, I'd like you to go briefly, because as we come towards the end. So, Brother Ifo, please go ahead.
Just quickly, I think there was a speaker that mentioned that they colonized everything. And I just wanted to remind folks that the spiritual teachings of the Arabic world and also of the Christian world were colonized, stolen, and distorted from indigenous African teachings. And yes, they do colonize everything. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We had a new member who joined us today. That is Brother Don. Brother Don, do you have anything to say once again, now that you've listened to this? And probably get in touch with us so that you don't miss the next session. You've said you got our invite via chat. I'll share, or Brother Kwame will share his contacts, or I'll share our WhatsApp group so that you can join us. Don, do you have anything to say, having listened to this thinking?
No, I'm okay. Maybe next time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brother Glory was not able to speak. It's okay. I'm
also in Canada, so Brother Don, let's connect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Brother Ifo. In fact, most of us who have joined here were either through referrals from friends. And I think it's very important that we at least refer 1 or 2 people. That will be growing our number. There are many people who have been referred by other friends who are here, and that's how we are who we are today. So keep referring your friends and your colleagues to join us so that we can increase our number and continue having our conversation. Now, Elder Glenn did not speak, or still not able to speak, and we're also sorry for Elder Sam issues with the technical issues. We hope next time we'll have an opportunity to share your thinking. So having said that, Brother Kwame has projected the topic for next week, this Saturday actually. And let's remind all of us that I think it's towards the week of Africa Liberation Day. That will be either next week, Monday. There are so many events that will be going on. We'll keep on sharing such of virtual events on the Africa Liberation Day. We will be having this topic, which will be either precursor of that Africa Liberation Day within the theme of Africa Liberation Day, which is armed struggle, history and lessons. And Sister Portia has actually linked this event to the diaspora. I think our topic is African diaspora. She can share that in the chat, but it's in line with this, expanding just the topic. So we look forward to Sister Portia doing a presentation of this. It will be either between the 20 minutes timeline we always talk about, and any member should be prepared at least to share something in 5 or whatever minute you'll have in regards to armed struggle and the context of the liberation of Africa, because it is in the theme of liberation, which is also the theme of probably this week towards the Africa Liberation Day. So feel free to prepare something also you can talk about in terms of the liberation in context of this topic, armed struggle, so that at least we have a fruitful conversation that coming Saturday. The poster will be ready anytime. We've done back and forth with Sister Portia. I'm almost done with the for editing and finalizing on the poster. So it will be out anytime, just one day to that day. Then next Thursday, we will continue from where we left, actually. We will continue to the next paragraph. And I think now we are starting to see how Nkrumah is moving on. The critique is coming in. So let's follow the flow. Let's engage next Thursday. I'll always try to share the topic in advance. The recordings for last week, I managed to share them this week on Tuesday, once the device was ready. So all the recordings for last week and any other pending recordings are now on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to share that as well. Feel free to comment. We've been getting some feedback from members in our YouTube channel so far. So they comment, they ask questions, they're interested. We link them to us, and we have been making a lot of achievement in terms of the viewers and everything else we do. So engage us on our YouTube channel. We have over 390 video recordings of our previous sessions, 390 recordings that have uploaded so far. We are trying to build up a social media team that might bring this further, either into shorts or remix videos, or even put them on TikTok, highlight some other things so that we can continue to engage the majority of the African population. Now, Monday, we'll continue the reading of the Pan-African Reading Club. We'll continue the Dr. Iti's book, where we are looking deeply into other things on their economic reforms as we move along. What else? I think we have also sent a poll in our WhatsApp group on various categories. Those are things you're trying to do. So if you have time, please, if you haven't choose the category, you can join. It's like departments or anything projects you're doing, please feel free to do that. And also Sister Portia is leading the actually application that she did in this Wednesday, whether we can use Kwame Nkrumah Trust, which is the parent organization for Consciencism Study Group, in the process of applying for the advisory opinion. So that also will be coming up. Is a group that Sister Portia is leading, and she had shared this in the main group. I think I don't have much to say. Back to you, Brother Kwame.
No, that's it. Nothing much to add myself. Just to say thank you to everyone who has attended today. Thank you.
Okay, comrades, you are free to leave, and let's meet again next Thursday or this Saturday or Monday.
Thank you. Thank you.